Hi, welcome to Anaprime Recap. You just had a surgery in the hospital and a few days later a monstrous creature starts growing inside your belly. We continue our horror journey exploring the tales of the master Junji Ito. We'll start our tenebrous journey with Tomie's Tale, episodes 1 and 2. This story begins with all the students gathered in a classroom. They are mourning the death of their classmate, Tomie. Professor Takagi informs that the person responsible for the crime has not yet been found and asks the other students to try not to go home alone. Seconds later, the door to the room opens and Tomie appears. The girl apologizes for being late and all her classmates are scared to see her, as if it was a ghost of the girl. After class, she goes to Professor Takagi's room, who asks her if this is some kind of joke. He questions if the girl is Tomie's twin, but she claims to be an only child. Then the girl hugs him and asks if they will be together after she graduates from school. The man orders her to let him go, but Tomie grabs him even tighter. Meanwhile, the students are gathered in the classroom theorizing if that was really their classmate who had died. Another teacher appears and informs that Takagi has been admitted. The man suddenly freaked out and started calling Tomie's name. One of the students comments that the girl's body had been found all mutilated. At that moment, she appears again in the classroom and complains about the delay of Professor Takagi. After class, the girl goes to talk to her friend Reiko, but she completely ignores her. Tomie asks if she knows why Yamamoto is avoiding her. She even says that even though she cheated on the boy with Professor Takagi, that wasn't reason enough for him to act that way. As they walk back home, the girls come to a bridge and Reiko has a memory that terrifies her. It was in that place that she had discarded a mysterious, bloody package. The girl runs away in despair and, on the way, is found by Yamamoto. The boy says they need to turn themselves in to the police. It is now that the flashbacks begin. A few days earlier, during school break, Tomie approaches teacher Takagi and tells him that she believes she is pregnant. From a distance, Yamamoto overhears the entire conversation and becomes furious. The girl confesses that she actually slept with Professor Takagi. As she walks away, the boy holds her arm. Tomie steps on the edge of the cliff and ends up falling. With the fall, everyone believes the girl is dead. Yamamoto says that he will call an ambulance, but Takagi informs him that if he did, he would need to explain how the incident occurred and he would end up being guilty of pushing her. All the students advise the boy not to turn himself in as it wasn't worth ruining his life over Tomie. Others still said that the girl deserved it and people like her should really die. Apparently Tomie was not at all liked by her classmates. The teacher then orders the boys to team up to completely cut her into pieces. As her body is being mutilated, the girl wakes up and starts screaming desperately, but Yamamoto covers her mouth and Takagi delivers the final blow. After the dissection, the teacher asks the students to wash themselves in the river and congratulates them on their work. A while later, the teacher informs them that the girl's body had been cut into 42 pieces, one for each student. The plan was for them to discard their piece in a place they were sure it would never be found. Reiko had thrown her friend's body into a river and now she and Yamamoto were sorry for what they had done. Some students found out that their classmates were going to the police to turn themselves in and went after them to try to stop them. They end up being surrounded while trying to escape and one of the students goes after Yamamoto with a knife. The boy would not allow his future to be destroyed by that crime. But before he can do anything, Tomie appears with blood in her eyes and asks what they're doing. Will Tomie get her revenge on those who caused her death? We will then move on to the second episode of this story. Yuki receives a visit from her boyfriend Tadashi while she was in the hospital. The girl suffers from a serious illness and needs to find a compatible donor so she can have a kidney transplant. Shortly after arriving there, the boy says he needs to leave. Yuki notices that her boyfriend has been distant lately and when she looks out the window, she can see him on the way out of the hospital meeting a very beautiful young woman. The next morning, that same woman will visit Yuki in her room. She introduces herself as Reiko and says she went there as she needed to talk to the girl. With a threatening voice, she orders the girl to stay away from Tadashi and still says that the boy doesn't want to see her anymore. Reiko says that Tadashi confessed to wanting to end his relationship with Yuki and only stays with the girl because she is too clingy, but in fact he wished she would die soon. Reiko still says that she loves Tadashi and his feelings for her are mutual, so Yuki shouldn't keep interfering. The girl gets angry and throws a stuffed rabbit at Reiko and orders her to leave. However, Yuki misses the target and ends up hitting the mirror. Even so, Reiko is furious, but before she can do any harm to the girl, a nurse arrives and takes her out of the room. On the other side of town, Takagi, Tomie's former teacher, manages to escape from the mental hospital where he was hospitalized. The man was there 2 years earlier, after Tomie's death, as he said he was being pursued by the girl's ghost. The police so far have not been able to find the culprit of that massacre, but the curious thing is that, recently, There were many reports of people who also saw Tomie. Later that day, Tadashi visits Yuki again, but the girl doesn't want to see him. She says that a woman named Reiko came to visit her that morning and told her about their relationship. Finally, Yuki asks Tadashi not to come back to the hospital to visit her. When he meets Reiko again, the boy asks why she had visited Yuki in the hospital. The girl makes up a story and says that Yuki had told her that she was in love with one of the doctors. Tadashi knows that isn't true and asks Reiko why she lies so much. Hearing this, she feels offended, so she gets up and leaves. Tadashi calls Reiko back, but the girl says that wasn't her name. At that moment, the boy discovers that even with her own name she had lied and believes he has fallen in love with a monster. He then remembers an article he had read in the newspaper about the girl who was dismembered 2 years earlier, and he gets goosebumps when he notices the resemblance between Reiko and the victim. Tadashi then decides to stop seeing that troubled girl, but while walking back home, he ends up being surprised by Reiko. She appears out of nowhere and apologizes for what had happened earlier. Reiko even says that she loves Tadashi and runs to hug him. He hugs her back, but seconds later something unexpected happens. The boy starts to stab her, over and over. From his facial expression, he seemed to be possessed by some evil spirit. The police manage to catch him, and when questioned about the motive for the crime, he says that he just wanted the girl to die. Looking at Reiko, something made him want to kill her, and he had never felt it for anyone else. At the morgue, a man appears claiming to be the victim's father. The doctor lets him in, and we soon discover that this man is none other than Professor Takagi. The doctor asks if he could use the girl's kidney to save a patient's life, and Takagi agrees. A few days later, Yuki wakes up from surgery. The girl has found a compatible donor to do the organ transplant. She asks the nurse who the person who made the donation was, but the woman says that this kind of information is confidential. A few days have passed and something strange happens. A creature was growing in Yuki's belly and causing the girl severe pain. So she is sent once again for surgery. During the operation, doctors are terrified to find a head growing inside the girl's abdomen. The monster jumps out of the girl's body and says her real name is Tomie. Apparently, it's impossible to get rid of this devilish girl. Now let's move on to the second tale, called The Intersection's Pretty Boy. A girl is standing at a crossroad, apparently waiting for someone. Suddenly, an unknown man appears within the fog, and the girl asks him if her love will come true. That mysterious guy looks at her and says that this love will never come true. That week, a boy named Ryusuke is transferred to the school. He is an old resident of the city, who had returned after spending a few years living abroad. After class, Midori will talk to him. The girl asks if the boy remembered her, as they had studied together in kindergarten. Ryusuke remembers the girl and is happy to see her. At the end of class, the two walk home together. Midori introduces him to her best friend Suzu, who belonged to another class. The girl tells Ryusuke that all the boys compete for Midori's attention. Many even walk through the crossroads to try to get their fortune told to know if they can be with her. Suzu asks if Ryusuke knows the legend of the crossroads, and the boy is visibly annoyed. He asks the girls not to play with this legend. Then he walks away and leaves the girls behind. Already in his room, just before dark, the boy remembers that, at this time of night, people used to walk through the crossroads of the city in order to find the pretty boy so they can have their fortune told. Most people take this moment to find out if their love will come true. The next day, Ryusuke overhears a conversation between two girls in his class. They were talking about a first-year girl who was found dead in the middle of a highway. She had cut her own neck with a stiletto. They still comment on a similar case that happened 8 years earlier. A woman went to have her fortune told at the crossroads and ended up taking her own life. Hearing this, the boy gets up and leaves the room. In the schoolyard, Ryusuke remembers what happened when he was still a child. The boy was running through the streets when he was stopped by a woman who wanted to have her fortune told. She said she was pregnant with a man who was married and had a child. She was in love with this man, but when she told him about the pregnancy, he started to be really cold with her. Still, the woman loved him and wanted to know if her love would come true. The boy, not understanding a thing, said that this would never happen and kept running. But the next day, he returned to the same place to find out what had happened to the woman. Arriving there, Ryusuke found her dead. Even after 8 years, the boy blamed himself for her death. While reflecting on what happened, Midori appears and asks what is bothering the boy. He states that everything is fine, and the girl asks if he has suffered any trauma related to the legend of the crossroads. She deduced this from his reaction the day before when Suzu questioned if he knew the legend. Ryusuke says it's just a story, and Midori reveals that her aunt took her own life 8 years earlier after having her fortune told at a crossroads. After hearing this, the boy is paralyzed. He couldn't accept the fact that he was the blamed for the death of Midori's aunt. From that moment on, he could no longer look at the girl. Suzu questions Ryusuke as to why he is ignoring her friend, but he refuses to tell her the truth. She then decides to go to the crossroads to talk to the pretty boy. Suzu says her friend is sad due to the sudden distance from the boy she likes and asks what she can do to bring the two together. At this point, the boy advises her to worry more about her own love life. She then goes to talk to Midori. The girl says that she went to a crossroads to find out how to bring Ryusuke and her friend together, but the boy's words made her realize that she was lying to herself. Then she confesses her love for Ryusuke to Midori. She claims she's been in love with him since the day the boy was transferred. Then she goes to declare herself to him. Despite all the boy's attempts to dismiss her, Suzu continued to pursue him. Until, one day, he decided to be honest with her. The boy confesses to being in love with Midori and claims he wants nothing to do with Suzu. By this time, the girl already had a terrifying look, as if her soul was being sucked out of her body. She claims to have followed the advice of the pretty boy at the crossroads, but still, her love would not come true. As the days passed, more and more girls were found dead. Even after Ryusuke made it clear that he didn't want anything to do with Suzu, the girl continued to chase him everywhere with a creepy look. One day, while returning home, the boy realizes that he is being followed. He apologizes to Suzu for the way he had spoken to her, but claims again that he is in love with Midori and therefore couldn't date anyone else. Ryusuke decides to reveal the truth about why he is avoiding Midori. He starts to tell the story of what happened 8 years ago, but in the meantime Suzu takes a stiletto and rips out her own throat. After this horrifying episode, the boy decides to do something about the pretty boy at the crossroads. Ryusuke then starts to impersonate the guy, but does the exact opposite of him. The boy starts walking through the crossroads every afternoon and gives hope to those who go there to reveal their fortune. But one day, while doing this work, he was surprised to come across the ghosts of the girls who took their own lives in that place. He even found Suzu's ghost. Still, the boy couldn't stop doing his job. Midori noticed that Ryusuke was strange and followed him. The girl said that she knew he was helping people who wanted to have their fortune told at the crossroads, but that was already going too far. By then, the boy looked like he was possessed. Midori asks why he's doing all that and Ryusuke says he can't stop until he finds the crossroads guy. Sometime later, while walking somewhere, he spots the pretty boy. Ryusuke goes after him, but, without realizing it, ends up being guided to the crossroads 8 years ago, where it all began. There, he meets Midori's aunt. The woman points to an alley and Ryusuke makes his way there. As Midori searches for him, she comes across the pretty boy from the crossroads. The girl is tempted to have her fortune told, but before she can, Ryusuke appears and asks what she is doing there. Midori says that the man he was looking for was there, but when they look again, the fog had disappeared and so is the pretty boy. Did Ryusuke manage to break that curse or was he the crossroads boy himself? So what did you think of this anime? Leave it in the comments below. And if you liked the video, like and subscribe for more anime recaps. See you next time.